Please note that nothing in this podcast should be considered as investment advice. All information shared here is strictly for informational and entertainment purposes only. Additionally, the views expressed by myself or any guests on the show are our own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Suffermion or any other businesses I am associated with.
Ian, thank you so much for joining me today. Super excited to chat with you. All right, Ian, last time we spoke was November of 23, so like a year and change, which is crazy. And for those who don't know, you're the founder and CEO of Third Time Games, which is a game studio that's behind the awesome game Photo Finish, which is essentially a Web3 enhanced fantasy horse racing game, and also the top game on Solana. So for those listening who don't know, could you give like a quick recap of what Photo Finish is and why it is exciting?
Yeah. Great to be back, Andrew. Of course, good to see you again. Mustache looking good.
Thank you.
Looking strong. Photo Finish is a horse racing game at its core. Players buy, sell, trade, and race and breed horses in this sort of like open ecosystem. So it's as close to real life kind of as you could get without having to deal with the real animal. And players at this point, I mean, we've been live since April 2023. I think over $40 million in racing and all kinds of, and even more millions in stud fees and breeding. And it's this crazy little microcosm world of virtual horse racing. So it's, basically the first year and a half has been about building out the racing product and all the other things around it. So people are having a great time owning horses. And this year is a lot around building out the wagering side. So it's turning into a much more open wagering product for spectators to wager on.
Awesome. Okay. So you've done so much since we last spoke. Can you kind of give me an update on, and you can take this anywhere, there's multiple directions here. What are some things that you've been working on that you're really excited about, or maybe you accomplished even 12 months ago? Like just give me like a recap of cool things that you've been doing.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things last year was mobile. And so, the background there, we are a mobile first studio. Now, of course, I started in console games. I worked on EA Sports, the Madden franchise, for 10 years. But since 2011, I've been working on mobile games, very early. And Third Time was founded in 2015 on mobile games. And so when we started working on Photo Finish Live, a web game in crypto, it was very new to all of us, of course. I mean, I guess Solana was new to everyone anyway. And the learnings there were immense and all of the technology hurdles and all of that stuff. So it was always key to us, though, that once we got product market fit, once we felt like this game, which is a real money horse racing ecosystem, up and running, the true way to grow it and reach a large audience was through a mobile app, a mobile version of the game. Not a web browser, not a Chrome plugin, Phantom Wallet, crypto nerd game. No offense to crypto nerds, I'm one of you. But you know what I mean, right? Like just a game that's mainstream, that could reach millions of players. And that was our previous mobile games. They had millions and millions of downloads. And it always felt in my mind that like if we offered a real money game to those same millions of people that downloaded the previous ones, then why are we not going to run this thing to the moon? This will be super exciting. Those previous games had great enjoyment and huge communities and fan bases, but they never generated a huge amount of money. And almost all of the players of those games would, you can look at the reviews. They'd be like, I wish I could bet on this game. I wish I could race for money against my friends. So we built that. And it's then how do you go out legally? How do you in a compliant way, put out a real money horse racing game? And so that was a big focus of basically last year. Getting approved by Apple was, I feel, a Herculean effort. And we did. And that was a big push. And so allowing the game to be listed, it has real money elements. It's got crypto elements. I mean, these are things that when we first started development, Apple would never have approved. And so that was a big part of what we're doing. And so now what that unlocks for us is to kind of go back to our old playbook a little bit. And that old playbook is running user acquisition on mobile devices directly to get installs. I think getting installs to a crypto web product that requires a Chrome plugin, everyone knows that's extremely difficult and very niche. Whereas like getting someone to download a horse racing game, much easier. And then now it's on us to convert them. So that's kind of where we're at right now, as we've been spending the last couple of months, getting live on the App Store. We still aren't live on Android, so we still have that to kind of capture and do, but slowly working our way into paid marketing and acquiring new users of the game. So players that will own horses, that will race for money, all of that. So that was a big part. But the other, big side, which is the blue sky of photo finish, is wagering. And, the reason I say that is, there's only so many people that can own and race horses. I mean, if you think about it, just think about real life. Like you go to the Kentucky Derby, there's 12 horses in that race, and there's 130,000 people in the stands, or 20 horses in a race, and 6 million people betting online. It's a very large and stark difference of who owns horses and who bets on horses. And so that's always been the goal for Photo Finish, is that we create a product that is wagerable because it's so good, because it's, lifelike, realistic, because it has history. There's skill in the betting because the horses have, race history. They have parents that have race history. They have bloodlines. All of that was the goal. And we've built that. We now have built, I feel very strongly, we have the best digital horse racing product in the world, and now get people to bet on it. And so that's the other part of our business that's been a real focus, is, building that side out, because photo finish reaches a really exciting kind of final form when people are betting on the races and the rake or the vig of those betting pools finds its way to the horses, much like what happens in real life. So now you get very incentivized to go race horses. People are incentivized, or they're out there just wagering because it's fun. And now you get the really true cooking ecosystem. And one of the big things that we did there is what we call simulcast. And so this was another kind of thing to try and get pushed through, is photo finish is racing every minute, every 2 minutes. There are races going off in the game. And, why aren't we monetizing that? That was really the question. Why aren't we getting people to bet on this? And so what we have built is this API sort of based system where we're streaming out the races to anyone, to any provider. And then we're building this sort of smart contract based parimutuel betting pools that people can bet on. And all of that in a very decentralized way. Again, it's not really part of Third Time. We're just sort of emitting the product out for other people to consume. And one of the first consumers of that is this Photo Finish app on Roku. And so that was approved as well late last year, so that people can tune in on their smart device, watch a feed of all of our races happening at all times. And then the next part of that will be betting on it. so that there's a lot going on, but you can kind of think of it as two very clear arms. It's like, attract new users to run stables, to race, to have fun. And if you think about 2021, 2022, that was the product we're building, is just let's make a horse racing game that's really fun for people to race for money. And then now the second part, now that we've done that, it's not like ever finished. Of course, we'll always iterate on that, but that product exists and it has thousands of users and it generates tons of money and it's very exciting, super fun to own a horse and race. But if you don't want to own a horse, if you want to just bet on a horse because it's gray, and you live in a territory where you can't find real horse racing, or maybe it's 3 a.m. and there's nothing on, we aim to fill that gap with our virtual feed. And so that's the other part that we're building out now.
That's awesome. Okay. So yeah. And also you said generates tons of money. I see all the time on Twitter, there's people that are that are posting, over the past 6 months or whatever period of time, I've made it's crazy amounts of money. It's, tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is wild. So there's some people that are really absolute pros at this, which is, incredible to see, like real power users.
Well, I was going to say, I was going to make, I saw a statement the other day. Somebody, one of our top players tagged me in, and he tagged Anatoly from Solana as well, that he was trying to see if there is a more valuable NFT than the horse that he bred. So he bred a horse in the first season that he named Primetime. And that horse ended up becoming one of the top stallions in the game. So like pretty much anyone in the game that wanted to get a really strong horse, they would breed and pay him to breed with Primetime. I think Primetime generated over $185,000 just in stud fees.
That is crazy.
Yeah. So that was like, he was trying to ask, like, is that the most valuable Solana NFT ever? It's possible.
Yeah. No, I mean, something that like makes sense. There could be some like kind of pet rock type of thing that someone YOLO'd on, back in the day.
Yeah. That felt like ETH money. Yeah. Solana never had those really. I mean, obviously they went up there, but yeah, I was like, yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. No, I wonder when people are going to start having Photo Finish Live as their full-time gig. Maybe
quite a few people do that. Yeah, there's quite a few people do that. Yeah. And there's even like Soul Big Brain, who's one of our early investors. He has a stable and he pays 2 to 3 people full-time jobs to run the stable. So it's like a lot of people do that. Yeah.
That's awesome. Very cool. All right. Okay. So iOS versus desktop, I understand that the vast majority of gamers globally are mobile, but I think, and crypto is heading in that direction. And correct me if I'm wrong, that the most recent data I've looked at is that desktop still dominates in crypto. And that could be incorrect. So what is your thought process on going forward on the mobile side, because the crypto users, although significantly fewer number than traditional gamers, their spend is much higher. And so how do you think about that going forward, that you want to get, yes, crypto users because they like to spend, but then also traditional gamers because they populate the game and make it more fun?
Yeah, I mean, we're always trying to attract the spendy crypto folks. We're always in the trenches, so to speak, on crypto Twitter, trying to, be on Twitter Spaces, being around that space to make sure that, the random guy that bought ETH at $1 that's looking for something fun to do that we can capture. That's why we go to the Art Basels and the various places to try and make sure that we are seen and known in that space. And that's an area that I still don't think we're very, like, at some level, I always thought, well, everyone in Solana knows who we are, but that's not really true. A lot of times, like, I'll go to an Art Basel and they'll be like, horse racing? What? Like Zed Run? I'm like, no, that was a long time ago, man. They're dead now. There's like there's a point there that we can still but that will max out. But there are a lot of big players that we still want to capture. One of the big things we are working on that I imagine will release this quarter, I hope, is putting a lot of our volume directly on the chain. So a lot of the stuff that we do in our game now is done in virtual currency. And we do that typically like Roblox, Fortnite, V-Bucks. We do that so that we can be on mobile without, that problem of having to give someone a wallet, right? I mean, that was the reason that we did it that way. And so this kind of answers that question. But that hurt us because no one could see our volume. Like, they can't see. Like, if you go to a DApp radar, Photo Finish isn't on there, even though we would be the number 1, 5, 10. We would always be in the top 10 based on the day of games. And so we're pushing that to try and I think that will be a big trigger to attract people that have never heard of us, the people that do go to crypto sites, the people that search Google for crypto games. And, that will be a big help to attract those people. But yeah, I think the trick has been, sort of threading this needle of allowing Apple to approve you, being able to onboard, normies or just people that install games off the App Store without requiring them to do all these complex things. And I think we've done that for the most part. And, we're getting better at that. But the process that you see people like Moonshot and others now doing correctly, where, you kind of hide crypto from them, Vector, you just sort of you can invest in tokens, but you don't really need to have this knowledge of the seed phrases and all the other kind of crazy stuff that is crypto.
Sorry to cut you off, but really quick on Moonshot, the amount of people my friends that messaged me about Trump coin, and I just told them, I was like, just download Moonshot, was crazy. It was actually insane. So you're absolutely correct on that point where it's kind of obfuscated.
Yeah. So that's how I've always felt with the iOS and, Android versions of Photo Finish, is that, you can play without anything. And what we don't have yet is, Apple Pay or IAP, in-app purchase. But that's the stuff that we're working on now to really do the same thing. You shouldn't have to set up a crypto wallet you should be able to export your crypto if you want. Like, and that's what I always loved about this idea that we could basically, maybe be the onboarding helper, just like Moonshot is, just like meme coins kind of are, where it's just sort of like, oh, I want to do that. I'll go learn about this weird crypto thing because I want to go be a part of this ecosystem. So yeah. Anyway, I think that's how we sort of thread the needle. I saw it this morning. 50% of the Trump and Melania buyers had never transacted on Solana.
Crazy.
Wild.
Absolutely crazy.
Big onboarding.
Yeah. I think the only one that can beat Trump in a meme coin in the world is probably Elon. But I don't know if he wants to do that because I feel like Trump could get pissed if Elon's coin's bigger than his. So, we'll see what happens. Cool. So wagering. Tell me more about that because I know you guys have created obviously this. It's pronounced simulcast.
Simulcast, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Simulcast. Yeah. You guys made it in such high definition and fidelity that isn't it Churchill's Downs official they use it for something, right? Because you guys made it such an advanced level that Churchill Downs is like, oh, we'll actually use this.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that we work with Churchill and Kentucky Derby on. So and the main one, of course, we're a license holder. So we are the only game that has the Kentucky Derby license. So people that want to, I know that's wild.
How is that possible? Because Churchill Downs, super old school,
publicly traded. Yeah.
Publicly traded. You guys are a crypto game, right? I mean, you guys are more than that, but still, you guys use crypto. So how is that even possible?
Yeah, that's a good story there. I mean, and that actually leads into the other part. So basically around 2016, 2017, the original mobile photo finish was out and, was doing pretty well and caught the eye of an NBC producer. And they just cold DM'd me on Twitter or cold DM'd the account, the photo finish account on Twitter and said, hey, can you guys make simulations? Can you make 3D simulations of races? And I was like, of course, which we couldn't, but of course. I started a conversation with NBC at that time and basically went through this, they were going to have a segment on their Kentucky Derby broadcast where the announcers predict who wins. And then they have a 3D version of it, right? And so she reached out, asked if we could do it. I said, of course. We actually couldn't, but I knew that I could make it happen in time if needed. And she actually just said, we've got this other team that does it. I'll reach out if anything changes. So I was like, bummer. And they show the broadcast that year. I'm watching the Derby. They show this 3D simulation and it looks horrible. It's like the horses are passing through each other. It looks like a PlayStation 1 game. So I immediately DM back at her and I was like, just so you know, I would do better than that. If you're still interested, I'm here, And she wrote back immediately, yes, please. Can you do Preakness, which is 2-3 weeks, after Derby. And apparently it had been kind of a disaster to even get that one done. It was just kind of a nightmare. So from that point forward, that was a huge crunch. I was up till 6 a.m. Everything was going wrong. There's all these great stories there of even trying to upload the video to NBC. My internet wasn't fast enough. So I had to drive to the AT&T store and sit outside in the rain and upload it.
Oh my God.
There are all these,
and so it was 2 weeks to do this.
Yeah. To make the Preakness one.
Gosh, that's insane.
But I was like, yeah, of course it does that, and that's what it was. But it's just one of those things you're like, I'm going to do this no matter what. I will pull this off. It's NBC. And so that became sort of the start of that partnership. We pulled it off. It was much better than their previous provider. I think, I don't even know where they were, but I was in the same time zone. We were all cool. Everybody was, getting along. And so for years we became that provider of just once a year, I would create the Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont sim, assuming they needed it. Some years they would be like, oh, we're not going to do that on this year or whatever. But we were the team that did that. And so then 2021 came around and I happened to know the CAA, the Creative Artists Agency rep for Churchill. He and I had talked many years prior about golf. They have a PGA license. They represent the Harlem Globetrotters. There were a bunch of things that they were going to try and work with us on games. And I was like, hey, does Churchill still want a game? We've got this new photo finish live thing that actually is a really good fit the monthly seasons and all these things about the game would be a good fit for the Derby. And so they reached out. We had a few meetings, and it took a long time. I mean, multiple months would go by. We wouldn't hear anything. And I'm just like, oh, is this going to work? And I'm looking at their sponsors and their licensors. I mean, they are very strict with who they allow. It's not like, NASCAR, a NASCAR driver has 200 patches on him. The Derby is just Woodford Reserve, Longines, White Claw, Coca-Cola. It's so I thought, man, this is no way we're going to get this, kind of a thing. But I'll keep trying. But I guess towards the end, I had done multiple pitches, kind of giving them the idea of what we would do. They called up NBC and were like, what's this third time team all about? And they knew the broadcast team, and they were like, oh, you got to work with them. They're amazing. They pulled it off. They did this, they did that, So I was like, oh. So that got us through. And so that was really a big eye-opening moment, though. When we signed that deal, we had a big tent in the infield of the Derby 2 years ago, and kind of just showing the game to everybody there. And I remember looking around and being like, what are we doing here? This is
so cool.
12-person video game team in crypto next to White Claw.
That's crazy.
Next to a BMW that's on a rotating thing. And I'm like, what in the hell? How did I do this? I was like, this would be a big deal for EA Sports to get this.
Yeah.
Third time got it. So yeah, they've been a great partner. And so we still kind of simultaneously, NBC Sports, they lost the license to the Belmont Stakes. And so that's similarly though, whether we do simulations for NBC or not, sort of irrespective to the Kentucky Derby, and Churchill themselves is our main licensor. And we put on a virtual Kentucky Derby once a month. We sent a bunch of people to the Derby last year. We try to really dig in with Churchill Downs, and we always are trying new stuff with them as well. So they've been a great partner, licensor for sure.
That's amazing. It's such a cool story of just, a true founder story, just grinding and going for it, and just winging it, and also making it happen though, which is also the ultimate victory there. So that's very, very cool. Yeah. I feel like there's the best founder stories are always close calls, right? It's always you're hanging on by a thread and somehow you figure it out and make it that's very inspiring. All right. So on the wagering side, or the wagering side, can you dig more into that? Because right now the players are active and they can race, they can breed, they can, do all sorts of things, but the wagering, do you expect that activity to kind of outpace in terms of dollar volume, the actual, direct gameplay, or I don't know how you phrase that, but how do you just view wagering going forward?
Yeah. I mean, I think it has an unlimited sky, right? It's got a ceiling that can be anything, compared to horse racing. You can't charge someone $10,000 to enter a race, probably. Whereas you can have 10,000 people bet $1, no problem. So I think that's why, we are leaning heavier into that, is that it just scales so much higher. And it requires a very engaged and active racing player base. But to some extent, it doesn't have to be 1 million people. I mean, how many owners of horses are there in real life? How many horses exist in real life? 20, 30,000 get born each year. It's just not all that many when you think about scale of video games. And, how many races are going off each day in real life. There's just a finite amount that you could consume as a betting public.
And sorry, I don't know a lot of these stats. So could you provide high level of how many horses are there racing actively? And I know it's going to be tough to answer, but honestly, how many races are there? Because obviously I've heard of Kentucky Derby and kind of the major ones, but I don't really know the other areas.
Yeah. So if you logged into, sort of a Twin Spires, .com or whatever, every day there are typically 5 to 10 races at 20 tracks, 30 tracks. So it's globally. And so now there's big gaps, so oftentimes, 9 p.m. Eastern to midnight or 1, there's kind of nothing. Sometimes, there's things like that where, you're waiting for Hong Kong racing to start, or maybe there's some stuff going in the UK. a lot of times the bets that are in Europe or whatever are different because there's not as much liquidity than there would be for the US bets, where there's a lot of people piling in on exotic bets or what have you. But yeah, I mean, there's typically like kind of during the meat of the day, like I could probably pull it up and look, the work day of the Eastern or the Pacific US person, there's a race going off every 5 minutes. So it's kind of, always cooking. And then there's these gaps in hours where, maybe there's not coverage worldwide or what have you. But a lot of those races are, I don't want to say not good, but they're very low level horses, very low level purses. And so it's really like, there's a lot of betting going on them. Like you may see often a $5,000 or $10,000 purse and $600,000 bet.
Wow, that's
the race,
crazy. That's insane. Yeah. So, but how are these people that are placing these wagers? Do they have information? Are they tracking these really random horse races over in Hong Kong, or do they have the information? Or are they just kind of like YOLO, like I'm gonna wing it?
There's always those folks that just it's oftentimes a $2 bet. If you're kind of into gambling, horse racing has sort of, I don't want to say a stranglehold, but it's really got that perfect mix of like sort of randomness and skill. It's not like playing slots or playing roulette. There's still a lot of skill that you can put in, but you can also just go like, I'll just throw $10 on the 3. He's got good odds. I think that sounds good. So it's got a lot of that, and a lot of people do play it that way. Now, I think there are, in the last 5-10 years, like algorithmic sort of computer betting has happened a lot. The thing about horse racing, a lot of people don't realize is I think it's one of the only, if not the best, sports that you can bet on that past results dictate future results in a very not fully predictable, but most predictable manner.
Interesting.
The Lions losing or winning on a given week has a trillion variables, and it's just sort of that's tough to know the odds. But a horse's performance is a horse's performance. It is very typically consistent, but not, it's still enough randomness. But so it's one of those sports that can tickle the mind there of if you just dig in a little bit onto the program, you feel like, oh, well, I can spot this angle that this horse typically loves to do this thing. And I've noticed something that they haven't. And so that's what I think really gets a lot of the betting public, and whether they're betting at low or at high. And then again, the algorithms now have started to be able to detect some of these angles. And so you'll see huge, the bet will have $500K in the purse a minute before it goes off, and then 2.5 million will roll in the last second. And you're like, okay, well, there's the computers.
Yeah.
They all place theirs. So yeah, it's pretty wild, but yeah, still going and very constant.
So, okay. So that you kind of answered my question there, where you believe that over time, wagering is going to far surpass the actual active management and racing of the horses.
For sure. Yeah. That's the hope. And because that makes racing management so much more fun when there's all this free splashed dollars going around. Even if, let's say, for example, we only got the big races to get bet on. I think we can get betting on every race, but let's say the big ones. It's that now is so aspirational for you to grind your way up to get a horse into this derby, because there could be $1 million in this purse. From all the wager profits that, then of course you'd do that. So I think that's and I say it a lot, the final form of photo finish is that, where there's this negative sum game, which is wagering, funding a positive sum game, which becomes kind of play to earn, because the negative sum is funding the positive sum.
How will you make the wagering easy for people like myself who are not in the weeds to participate in?
Yeah, that's a huge part of it, and I'll be happy to send over the Roku app and what simulcast looks like. So we've built an experience there that we're trying to make as few clicks as humanly possible and as dumbed down as humanly possible, while still allowing people to dig in on skill if they want. But the way the Roku and the simulcast works is you're looking at sort of just like a real race. The horses come out one at a time in sort of a parade is what they call that, the post parade. They're on the way to the gate. They walk in, there's a QR code up in the top right-hand corner, and it shows, their last race, their last 5 races, who owns them, the name of their mom and their dad, and that's kind of it. And so you could be sitting at a bar the bar owner has this Roku app on, and you just see this great horse walk by named Slippery Joe. And you're like, that's funny. And you scan with your QR code, and that immediately takes you to a crypto transaction, a blink that is like, put $2 on this horse. The hope there is that if you don't have a crypto wallet, it uses TipLink or something like that, so you can just do it with Google. Any onboarding thing, so you're not having to do the normal crypto nerd stuff. That's the idea. And so that then while you're sitting there waiting for your come or waiting for your food to show up, you throw $2 on that Slippery Joe because it's funny, and then 3 minutes later it's going to race, and you see it wins. Oh, push notification, you won, and that's it. It's just that simple. And with the idea being that what's so exciting about that Roku app is that bar owners would be able to get a fee off of that bet. And that is not how bar owners, they typically are always having to pay. You're having to pay hundreds of dollars for the right to be able to stream the NFL. You're having to pay DirecTV, you're having to pay ASCAP in order to stream music. Now it's like, well, yeah, just throw horse racing on one of your TVs and maybe you'll get $50 a week, basically referral fees kind of a thing. So I'm really excited about what that can do for the normal sports bar person out there in the territories in which this is legal, which there are a lot. So yeah, that's how I think it'll work.
Okay. So, in I think in Illinois, so I live in Chicago. There's casinos are legal here now. Have you thought about putting, I don't know, machines, like not slot machines, but some sort of, simulcast like horse racing machine in there, or how have you thought about that?
Yeah, definitely. I spent a lot of time talking with this guy that he builds a lot of the hardware machines for like Dave and Buster's. And this is an old game dev legend. His name's Eugene Jarvis. He built like Defender and those like crazy midway, huge games in Chicago too. We talked a lot about that, like, a hardware placement thing. And it's very doable, but extremely expensive and time consuming to get the licenses and audits required. So it's one of those things that I've more or less tried to pitch Churchill to do, like they've already got the license. They already own casinos. Like, hey guys, can I build you a slot machine or a game or a screen that you show and you own it and I'll just take a licensing fee rather than me trying to like go biz dev my way into casinos, right? So that's where we've looked. It's just like, it's so highly regulated.
Yeah.
And extremely difficult, and very few people, like, you don't realize, like, when you go into a casino, like, it's AGT, all the machines are from Aristocrat or AGT. Like, it's two people that have every machine. And so it's like, they have all of the licenses and the audits and all the things required to do that. So yeah, being an outside player is really tough to do something like that. But, that's why I think we're going like sort of the sports bar restaurant route. Similar to the way trivia, those things, when you go around to those places and you see Chive trivia, or one of those things, that's the angle we're going after.
I mean, I'm sure you've thought about this, but is there going to be a way to, let's say I want to invest, or, I don't know the correct terminology, but we'll just say invest into a stable, like Big Brain. Like, I'm like, oh man, they have 4 people full time. Like, I want to invest in them and participate in their success. I don't know if they would be open to that investment or whatever, but is there kind of like, will you ever allow something like that or enable that?
Yeah, so we sort of do that now in some way. You basically can create a stable in the game. You could buy a bunch of horses if you wanted, or you could have someone, sort of help you do that. And then you loan all of those horses to stable managers. And so that's effectively the easiest way to kind of do almost a DAO sort of setup, where it's like, okay, I'm the benefactor. I've got the wallet. I'm going to kind of set this thing up, but then I'm going to just send, I have 3 employees that are going to go do all the racing and grinding for me. In terms of like, if you wanted to buy in on Big Brain, there's no like tokenization of the stable or anything yet, even though we have talked about that, of like, yeah, could someone sell fractions of their horse, and then on smart contract level, like, 10% of that race goes to you and 5% goes to you. Because I've seen that. So like, basically when I started Photo Finish Live, I bought into 2 real horses in real life,
cool.
just to kind of see and be a part of it. The first one sucked horribly and immediately got sold in a claiming race for like $5,000. So huge loss on that one. But then the second one, Looks Rare, I got to name him too.
Looks Rare, cool.
Looks Rare, that's his name. He got hurt. So he raced like 3 or 4 times, had won a couple, was looking really good, and he gets hurt. And so he's been kind of like in the stable out in the farm for over a year. And it was a really interesting, eye-opening thing, though, of like, we get bills all the time, like for his chiropractic appointment, for his shots, for his, it's just insane. And all of them have these like rev share things. It's like, oh, okay, well, you're a 25% owner of him. So here's the total bill. So here's here's how much your other guy owns. Here's, and I just thought about like what a nightmare that is for them, for the people that are doing the bills collecting. Oh, I got to do this. And it's just like, how amazingly easy that would be if it was just a smart contract with different royalty creators in it, So I am looking to, over time, try and build stuff like that. If horses are that valuable, and, if we get to where the final form where horses are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, then, people would want to fractionalize them, because then it's like, well, I can't buy a horse outright, but I will buy 10% of yours. And people being able to sell fractions like that. But yeah, we're just not there yet, but hopefully.
I know you're very busy, so I was going to say, like, what's stopping you? But is there a regulatory reason that that you need to kind of figure out, or what are the hurdles for getting something like that completed?
That one's not too much. I mean, I would imagine we'd have to consult some attorneys, but I mean, you're buying in on a horse, and you guys are racing it, and you'd have to make sure that you're in a territory that is okay with that. Even if you're a silent partner, you'd have to, I'm sure, like if you're getting revenue kickbacks from a skill-based game, you'd have to be in the right locale. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think it's more just right now, like there's not enough players and not enough, you can get horses for $5 still. So It's like, you can't do that in real life. That's often, that's the big reason is like, number one, you can't find a cheap horse. And number two, most people can't care for the damn thing. So you have to be a fractional owner, because you're like, well, someone's going to deal with stabling this thing, because I'm not, I don't know what to do. So there's always going to be some majority owner that's dealing with the trainer and the actual upkeep of the animal.
Yeah, I guess my thought process was around, betting on someone else's success. Like, Big Brain, I know that they're great, therefore I'm just gonna bet on those guys because I have faith in them, right? So it's like the least amount of brain power used in something like that. Because even wagering, like you want to kind of know what's going on, right? So
them doing a fundraise, on their stable is a very interesting. Now, like D Stables, which is run by Aaron from D Gods, they are sort of a model of that. They basically created a token, an NFT, with a limited supply, and said, hey, if you want to be a part of D Stables, mint one of these NFTs. And so that they have kind of this decentralized ownership structure of their stable with hundreds of people hanging out, watching the races on Discord, like built a little community around D Stables, and they own a track in the game too, branded it. So yeah, went to the Derby together. It's like a pretty cool little thing that you can kind of, now again, none of that was through the game. That was all their own.
That's awesome. Wow. All right, so I want to ask you about KOLs, because I'm always just curious about the effectiveness of KOLs and how many people are working with KOLs. So I guess, are you working with KOLs, and have you found them effective?
That's a good question. Let's see what I can talk about. We've had 2 kind of pretty major big name folks invest in Third Time and invest in Crown, and so that I always feel is a much better way rather than. A lot of KOLs, reach out for an allocation.
Yeah.
And that one's a little tough. Like there's a guy that we've known for many years that's kind of like a trading, big follower of just trading. And we talked to him and his business manager recently, and they were just saying, the typical deal is 3% of supply.
What? 3% of supply? Oh my gosh, that is insane.
I know. So I was like, all right, I'm not doing that. So I think there's that going on, and so you do always have to parse this thing of like, well,
I need to be a KOL. I'm sorry, I was just thinking about that. I was like,
me too. Me too.
Tweet.
We're in the wrong business.
Yeah, seriously.
Get my following up.
Yeah.
It's like, so there's some that are legit, and then there's some that aren't. And it's like, we've had a few KOLs that we didn't pay or we didn't do anything, and they just believed in the game. And so then they really pumped, the project to their followers. And that's a big double-edged sword too. It's like all of a sudden you get all this excitement kind of out of nowhere. But then if we don't do what they think or is right, and then because they're not internal, they can't ask us questions. They don't know any inner workings. They can also just as easily go like, you guys aren't doing what I think is right. And then they trash you to their followings, and they have armies, it's like, it's the weirdest thing about Twitter, right? It's like someone with 0 followers and no knowledge has just as much of a voice as someone that's been working in the industry for 25 years, so it's like, you have to get all that pain. And, I get hammered from people that just lost money buying Crown at the top. And you're just like, I'm sorry, but I didn't tell you to do that. And I'm working, believe me, I want it to go up more than you. I promise, so it's just like, those are the things that are rough. So, the best that I've found, I guess, is the really authentic KOLs and having them invest with, of course, lockups and very clear, like transparent, vesting schedules, as well as, on all of our advisory type agreements, they can be terminated if you're not doing anything. Because I've seen that quite a bit. It's like, and sometimes it's no fault of their own. Like, majority of these KOLs probably get, what do you think, 10,000 DMs a day? I mean, they have to get destroyed.
Because I get DMs and I'm not a KOL, right? So you have to imagine the actual KOLs are getting crazy amounts. Yeah,
Telegram and this and that. So I just, like, at some level, it's like, if they are ghosting you or whatever, you have to have the right to, as a founder, be like, all right, you know what, never mind. This isn't working out. No harm, no foul. But like, you're not going to take these tokens and dump them on my community if you're not working for them. Like, I work my ass off on this project. Why do you deserve as much as my employees or more? And you haven't done anything. So that's where I always come at it. And sometimes I think people get frustrated of like, oh, you're not using these guys enough or this, or people are like hoping that we are on more of these. There's a lot of shows and YouTube and podcasts from these kind of influencers and KOLs, and all of them are pay to play. You have to pay to get on.
Interesting.
And they don't disclose that they pay.
Yeah,
that
I'm
they're
doing
paid
it wrong
ads.
again. This is another thing I'm doing wrong. Jeez.
Yeah, I didn't pay you.
You gotta
I should have paid you for this. So that's the stuff that, like, I haven't played the game as much because it's just like, I don't really believe in a lot of that thing. Like, I have no problem paying to be on a show. And then at the beginning, they go, hey, this show's sponsored by Photo Finish. Like, no problem. But like, when they don't advertise and they act like, oh, Photo Finish, guys, this is the best new game. I just discovered it. I just bought $10,000 worth of Crown. And none of it's true. Like, I'm never going to be a part of that. Well, so there's just like a lot of sliminess in the thing. And it's just sort of be expected in this crypto world. It's so anonymous. And so, yeah, we do work with them. We found, quite a few that I like and typically are good, but it's often very fraught with, sort of pitfalls.
Yeah. So it's really just around finding people that are aligned with the mission and the objective, and just finding people that are trustworthy and just like good people in general is kind of the bar, it sounds like.
Yeah. Because they'll keep trying to, like, we've had so many people come offer, we would like Crown. I'm like, oh, okay. And they'll say, well, here's our, we typically will offer a 30% discount, but you've got to lock it for a year or something like that. And they'll go, well, we typically get an 80% discount.
Whoa,
well, then
that is crazy.
Yeah. Then I'm like, well, then no. Right? Like, you don't deserve that. Like, I'm sorry. Like, and you may be able to pump the token to your follower, but it's just like, in my heart of hearts, I can't deal with that level of sort of like, really just all the community members, all the team, everyone's put blood, sweat, and tears into this. And it's just some rando. I'm never going to do that. But maybe other people do.
I do find it weird that, because you mentioned someone will come in on Twitter and talk smack, and, because they bought the top of Crown or whatever. And it's weird that crypto seems like the only, and maybe I'm only in crypto. I'm not in these other circles, but crypto seems like one of the only places where people are angry at the issuer of like whatever token or asset or NFT or whatever, if they bought at the wrong time, versus like, if I buy Apple, at the top, and then Apple goes down, I'm not like, fucking Tim Cook, a piece of shit. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't happen, right?
I've said the same thing of like, if you bought a bunch of Tesla shares, would you at Elon? I'm like, dude, what are you doing? But I think people do that.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
what are you doing playing Diablo?
Maybe.
What are you doing playing Diablo right now? My stock is down. So I do think they might. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. No, that's very possible. I'm just not in TradFi like chats
Yeah.
or Reddit, Wall Street bets or whatever. So I'm not aware. But you're probably right. You're probably right. People, but I found it weird that I'm like, people just should take responsibility for their own actions. It's like, you bought
Of course.
It's like, just like it, handle it. But anyways, I get people are not like that online. But
yeah, it's an anonymous world, and it's tough. It's like I say that a lot, like even with my wife and stuff. I'm like, when I go see a bad movie or I have a bad meal or something, I just never would in a million years think I'm gonna find the creator of this.
Yeah.
I'm going to tag them with my displeasure.
Yeah.
You just like go on with your life. But there's, it's just a different. This is the internet. It's always been that way. Yeah,
that's true. All right. So speaking of Crown, I want to talk about Crown, which is your native token, of course, and the reward system that you have for Crown with the races and whatnot. Because I also believe that Crown, the total supply is going to be completely out by, I want to say like April or something. April. Okay. Yeah. So it's coming pretty soon. We're
March 10th. March 10th is the main final one. Yeah. It's very exciting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me about like the whole, just tell me about the token ecosystem and kind of that rewards and the emissions and whatnot.
Yeah. So like kind of the high level, token design of Photo Finish from the beginning was, maybe we did it wrong. Maybe we did it right. I don't know. But 50% of the supply was dedicated to the community. And that community being the people that bought the NFTs. And that was kind of unheard of at the time. The majority of people, you'd have this or you'd have that. But like Crown was split in two. It was like half of it is going to team, ecosystem, sort of racing, growth. And then half of it is going to these PFP NFT holders. And, the decision on doing that was really like, rewarding those that believed in us early. And, maybe we rewarded them too much or maybe we rewarded them too long, but we did so in a 2-year unlock, basically. So if you bought a PFP and you had a PFP, those PFPs emitted Crown. You could think of them as they're miners. They're staked and they're mining Crown out. So it was our way that we thought at the beginning that if we did it that way, that PFPs and these NFTs would stay very low in supply, which would cause their price to be ginormous, and the royalties would pay us. And that was sort of the dream of NFTs in 2021. And I think like that totally did not happen. It's like everyone locked them up and then they just disappeared from the public lexicon. Like no one even thought of them. Only a few hundred people knew about them, and that was kind of it. So what happened then is that we had this 2-year, I don't want to call it an albatross, but emission of Crown to basically this very smallish group of people that owned the NFTs. And those people probably, I would imagine, are very happy. Like that's been quite a passive gain of tokens by holding those PFPs. And so all that ends though, that's 50% of supply, 125 million tokens ends on March 10th. And at that point, all 250 million Crown tokens will be basically unlocked. And, you can see it on the chart as straight as day. Every season is when those unlocks happen. It was 26 seasons. Each season is 28 days. So over 2 years, every single season, there were 4.8-ish million Crown unlocked. And you can go look at the chart. And it's a massive sell pressure event once a month, every 28 days. And, good on people. I typically would take all that Crown and put it into the track. And so that I'm, getting derby yield. I'm getting yield off of the game, but a lot of people would just turbo sell it right then.
Sorry, could you touch base on that staking or the track staking or whatever?
Yeah. That was obviously the vision of Crown from the beginning that we thought was so much different from everything else. Is the reason for Crown to exist, unlike most every other game's reason for their token to exist, is just sort of made up. Like Crown exists in a very real reason, which is to be a owner of a track. And the way to own a track is to stake Crown on that track. So the big brains of the world, the D-stables, they are the majority owners of these tracks, which means they're getting, racing fees coming off of it. They're also able to sell sponsorships, and that's been pretty lucrative for quite a few of them. They've sold sponsors to their own track And they can do so with like meme coins. People have had pretty exciting like Major and other tokens that have gone really like multiple tens of millions market cap have been sponsored on the track. So there's like a real reason to be a part of this track ownership ecosystem, and you do so by staking Crown. So for me, I'm like, any Crown I unlock, I go stake on my, on the tracks. Other people, they just turbo sell it and they go plow it into whatever meme coin that's going on, which is fine. But all that ends on March 10th. So no longer, again, go look at the chart every 28 days.
Full circulating supply of the Crown token will be completely full.
Yeah. Who knows what'll happen? I don't know. No financial advice. But there's no sell pressure anymore on a monthly cadence. There may still be sell pressure other ways, but that's a big part of it.
So the you said the fees are sent to the track owners. So if I stake Crown, I'm staking on, I don't know, whatever the Big Brains
track.
Yeah. And I have 1%. Everyone that's racing on that track, that racing process will produce some sort of fees. What's the fee? Like, in general, like, is there like if I have 1% of Big Brains track, can you give me an estimate? Because I just don't know the numbers.
Yeah, it'd be 1% of the fees, and the fees are typically somewhere between 15 and 20% of the racing volume that goes through there. So, right now, I think the Crown yield is around 50% APY.
That's insane.
When it goes to, like, that's the thing. It's like you'll have these big sell events each season of people's like, they have their emission. They go sell a bunch. Again, they're plowing it into Trump or whatever, which is, I'm not hating. The meme coin stuff right now is a huge opportunity, and people should chase it probably if they like that type of thing. But the yield on just being a part of being a track owner, especially if you want to play the game, is awesome. You get this free big stipend each month that you can now use and go race more and try and gamble your head off inside the game. So that's why it's been so strong. I mean, I think if you look at almost any other game or utility token, they've kind of gone to zero. And I hate to say Crown has been strong when it's down 80, 90% off of its all-time high, but it's held a floor when I think most have not. They just speed run to zero because there's no reason. Whereas Crown has a real reason to exist, and it will always be propped up by that sort of track ownership angle, which is, I think, unique. I mean, no one's really done anything like it, and I know that people always are excited about it when they hear about it. So it's one of my favorite parts.
Do you expect to add more functionality to Crown in the future? Obviously, I mean, you don't need to. I'm just kind of throwing ideas.
No, we do. I mean, obviously, it behooves me to hoover as much Crown out of users' pockets into my own. As a game developer, I'm always wanting to try and fund things with that. And even if it's like we were taking it in to burn it or to sell it or what have you, even if not, if we just wanted to use it for purses and just pay it right back out, we do. So we have used Crown in a couple of small instances right now. Like if you wanted to rename a horse or you wanted to scratch a horse out of a race, you're having to use Crown as a currency to do so. And one of the bigger ones is what released. It's still kind of in like a testing beta. It's called PFL Pro. And so if you want to do API-based access into like advanced tools, that's a subscription that you have to pay 99 Crown a month. And so, those types of things for the power users are other syncs on Crown. And of course, we've talked about cosmetics or what have you, any sorts of things that we could do. It again is a good idea for us to always take more Crown out of the ecosystem and put it in our own pockets or burn it or put it back in the user's pockets some way. That we can do it. So it's always something that we're looking at.
What do you, and again, you're very busy, you're doing a lot, but next 12 months, what do you expect to be, to be coming out and launching?
Yeah, I think, the thing I'm most excited about is simulcast. So, for at the end of the year to have this notion that there's 100 bars in the, Chicago area or what have you, a state or New Jersey or Pennsylvania as sort of our first test run, or even the UK, that are running these races and people are just, casually throwing $2, $10, $50 on horses. That's really the exciting world for me to be in, because it's just like it really unlocks so much in the racing ecosystem, and it's not really that big. Like this is super common in like Australia. When you go to a bar in Australia, there are virtual horse races running all the time. In the UK even. And there's just nothing in the US. And I think it's because it's kind of like there's no skill. Like an American sports bettor the FanDuel style person wants to be able to use their knowledge of fantasy to do better. And I think there's no skill in those, whereas there is skill in picking horses in photo finish. And that's what I'm really excited about, to like capture a Western audience in a product that doesn't exist, has no competition, has huge green field, blue sky in front of it.
Very cool. Very cool. And you did mention Android. I know you're on iOS, and that was a huge kind of thing to tackle. Is Android equally as difficult to onboard to, or is iOS kind of the gold standard?
Yeah, Android is an interesting one because they still seem to not allow skill-based games in the US. And, there's much bigger games in IP. Like FanDuel has a game called FanDuel Face Off that you can look up on the App Store, where you can play, little random games for heads up for real money against each other. And Skills with a Z is another one that's been around for 5-6+ years. Neither are listed on Google Play, and they typically just have that on their website. Like, hey, just install it yourself, sideload it. And so that's what we'll do until Google changes their stance on Google Play. We'll just allow people to sideload. And then we're also partnering with Solana on Seeker. So we're hoping to be installed by default on the new Solana phone. That's Android based. So we are building Android out. It's just sort of like distribution through Google Play. Like, as of right now, I don't know how we do it aside from making it free only. We could just basically, you can't play for real money at all. It's just the free app, which is okay, but I just don't imagine. I don't know. Well, they would. Why do that? It's not very fun. Let's go play the real one.
Very cool. All right. So before I ask some questions outside of photo finish, can you give me I want to make some hype in terms of, give me some cool stories of like the top users, or like their top earnings, or something I can put like a YouTube thumbnail, some clickbait.
Yeah, the clickbait. I mean, one of the top ones, we actually are making some clickbait videos ourselves right now, but the top earning player in photo finish has earned over $1 million.
Over $1 million. Yeah. That is insane. That is crazy. Yeah. It's been what, two and a half years, or how many years? April
23. Okay. When it launched. Wow. So
that is
not even 2. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Pretty good.
Nice. I'm going to use that $1 million horse racing. I'll figure it out. I'll send it to you, but cool.
Yeah.
All right. So outside of photo finish, what within the crypto and or just regular tech ecosystem or gaming ecosystem has you excited or intrigued?
Well, I'm always still a huge gamer. I grew up a gamer. Of course, I've found myself in this sort of weird corner of the internet with crypto and virtual horse racing. But I still am as excited as everyone else for like a GTA to launch. I still play indie games, and I still play Fortnite with my kids, and so I'm obviously still about that. I've been very blown away at the meme coin craze. And that's been a really just sort of exciting thing to watch. Now, it's too much to be plugged in on all that. But if you haven't downloaded the Vector app, I would highly recommend. That's been a great way to keep my eye on the ecosystem, and in a very it's just on mobile. Don't need crypto wallets. Don't need all of that. And that's built by the Tensor team, which is a very strong, super legitimate team that's been around for a while. That one, for example, I bought Butthole coin, which was just a hilarious joke to me for,
and now your kids are retired officially.
Kids are definitely, it paid for all of their college funds, which is just insane.
What's crazy is I don't know if you're joking. Like that's a crazy thing.
I'm real.
No, it's real. Are you joking?
Yeah.
That is
no. Yeah, at one point I was the number one person on Vector on their their weekly leaderboard. I think I still have the best week P&L across Vector. And what's so funny to me too is you know me at this point. I've been in the game industry for 25 years. Worked on Madden.
Yeah.
And when I'm on Vector and if I post something, people will go, "Oh yeah, I'm tailing the butthole guy."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "I'm the butthole guy." All of this work, all of this effort. Yeah. It could be worse, I guess. But I'm I have to keep telling them, I don't know. I'm not a trader. I don't do anything. I literally was up. It was 11:40 at night, had a few beers. I just happened to open the app. There was a thing called Butthole. And I said, that's funny. And I just bought it. I'm not a trader. There's guys on there that are like in the
You're like,
trenches
I'm
all
an
the time.
accomplished developer with, have made games with millions of users. So
Yeah.
they're like the butthole guy.
Butthole guy. Yeah. But yeah, I'm not complaining, man. I mean, I'm still holding, like, I have, let's see, I think I had 15 million butthole tokens at one point. I think I'm down to 5 million now. And I'm still holding, just hoping for the moon, because it's been up and down. But yeah.
Butthole's the future.
Butthole is the future of finance. Future finance is butthole.
Yeah, that's crazy. Wow. That's very cool. Well, another hot trend obviously is AI. How do you see AI impacting games besides obviously in content creation? Like AI is making content creation levels and assets and whatever 100 times more efficient and easier. But outside of that, how do you see AI impacting games?
Yeah, it's immense. I mean, I remember when you and I chatted, it had just kind of started taking off. And I remember making that prediction that I will probably not be, I will have full-time engineers, and we're kind of almost there. There's a lot of like pair programming going on by agents that, so I definitely feel that prediction. I think I said 5 years. Like, I think that's going to be true. Like, there's going to be a lot of game engineering that's done by robots for sure. I think, when it comes to the actual gameplay, it's a slippery slope for me. Like, I'm very excited about it at some level. When you think about, and we built a lot of this stuff recently where Photo Finish has an API now that's official that, anyone can, read from and write to their account. So, part of that was around these AI frameworks that people are able to start using now, where you can have an agent that downloads all the races, downloads your stable, and then does its own algorithmic figure out to, like, which horse should I put in which race?
Wow.
Which is kind of insane. Or which horse should I bet on in this race? All of that can now be done in these agent loops. And, it's a slippery slope for me, because it's like, is that where we want? Like, just a bunch of robots playing each other in Photo Finish, a bunch of AI command line loops on everyone's machines playing the game. That doesn't sound so great. It's not a skill-based game anymore, but so that's why we're not like jumping in and letting people do that at scale yet. And because I think, like, if you think about poker, which is a pretty good, similar-ish game to Photo Finish, like, it's a lot of skill, still some luck, all that. Poker online is going to be played exclusively by robots, like, in the near future. Like, why would you ever try to play heads up against anyone online? Because they've got some solver there that, so it's one of those things that's like, oh man, this is going to take over a lot of the real money in the gaming world and gambling world. And there's nothing you can do to stop it. So at some level, yeah, it's like, I feel like it's futile to even try to not, to try to hold it back. But I'm not like enabling or encouraging it just yet. Just trying to kind of like limp my way in.
So not to kind of, steel man, but, Binance, they have trading bots that people can use, and it's like a one click, so like super easy. And you can type in like Binance trading bots, and you can see the volume of what the trading bots are currently in custody of or whatnot. I think the last time I checked, it was like $11 billion worth of crypto, right? So just like outrage. So, and what they're finding, I was talking to a guy who knows this, but what they're finding is that the users are oftentimes preferring the bots, and every bot has a different strategy. Like, this is the buy when ETH 30-day moving average hits this, or like buy when Bitcoin drops, or whatever. They all have their own different things, but people are preferring that because they're like, okay, well, I'm going to have my own money that I'm going to play with and have fun with on the trading side, but I'm going to actually allocate the vast portion of my portfolio to these bots. Because it's it's 24/7 and I can go to sleep and not worry about it, right? So the fact that I'm seeing that in crypto, I'm like, wow. I'm wondering if that's going to kind of permeate through with all types of markets, and already the vast majority of markets are traded by robots, but that's more of an institutional kind of fund level. But if retail people start, like, if everyone starts using bots, then like, what happens then? And it does seem like we might be headed there. So. I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I fully agree. I mean, and that's the thing. Like, if I turned on today, Photo Finish could, have a plugin with one of these, Eliza, or one of these open source sort of AI framework agents. It's like volume would go way up. Like, there's no doubt about it. There's a lot of people in the game that have lots of horses, and they typically just focus on maybe their favorite ones. It's too much to worry about for the other ones, but they would happily get them on the track. It's just too many clicks, or too much time, or they weren't online when the race opened, or, what have you, right? And it's like, yeah, if all of a sudden they've got a robot stable manager that's entering every horse into every race at all times, and they just kind of sit back and, tune and tweak it, like, oh yeah, maybe don't do as many high stakes ones, try and do more claimers. It would
that's probably the
skyrocket racing volume, but it's like, but that's not a skill-based game anymore.
But that's probably the future of everything. It's like
I know. What am I fighting
for?
Emails?
Do I want to do my emails, or do I want the I'm going to tweak my AI to answer the emails in the way that I want it, right? Or I'm going to tweak the AI to join the races that I want to join on photo finish, right? So yeah, I mean,
yeah, we talk about that too, like the cold outreach emails that you get every day, right?
Yeah,
it's like those are probably going to be all AI soon, and then we're all going to have autoresponders that are just auto responding to no or yes. It's just like the entire internet will just be bots talking to each other.
So this is not a tangent. I was going to say this is a tangent. This is actually on point. So I have a good friend who's a lawyer, and he's a business lawyer working on a case right now. He is during the actual case and court case. I don't really know what you call it, but in front of the judge when they're kind of going back and forth as to their arguments and whatnot, he was inputting what the other lawyer, the opposing lawyer, was saying into ChatGPT and saying, "Hey, this is a scenario. I'm a lawyer, and this is what the case is about. And this other lawyer just said this." So he would input that, then he would read what the ChatGPT would say, and he said, "Wow, this is better than what I would come up with." And he would say that, and he's dominating the case right now. It's still ongoing, so I can't talk too much, but dominating the case right now. And I'm
getting rebuttal, help or input,
right. And I'm like, first of all, there's a huge arbitrage for the next few years where people that use AI and people that don't use AI, people that use AI are just going to crush. But then second of all, we're turning into just these audio outputs for the AI. I'm like, right. You know what I mean? I'm just going to say whatever my phone says. Oh, hello, Ian. I love photo finish. You know what I mean? It's gonna be crazy. So,
I know, man. Anyhow. It's a weird world. We're lucky to live in it. I still think that of all the billions of people that came before us, they never got to see any of this, and so I lean on that a lot. Of man, we're gonna see people land on Mars. We're gonna see these AI robots do all this crazy shit. It's that's pretty awesome.
It's gonna be a fun couple of years. I'm very excited to be here. But all right, sir, it is time for the rapid fire closing questions.
Yes.
Price of Bitcoin 1 year from now.
Oh, I'll go one. Let's see. What's Trump gonna do? Should I be hyper bullish? I was gonna say 135, but maybe I should just be hyper bullish. How about 160?
That's hyper bullish. I thought you were gonna say 500.
Yeah, okay. $1 million per
$1
coin.
million. Yeah. All right, 160 is good. I like
160. It. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Favorite video game besides Photo Finish, obviously.
Besides Photo Finish, that's really hard to say. I mean, there's it depends on the mood, of course. I love the GTA franchise. I love the Hitman franchise. The game that I play probably the most when I'm sort of falling back is I'll go play Link to the Past on Super Nintendo. So
Link to the Past. I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, it's a Super Nintendo game, obviously Zelda, and one of the best. So that's maybe I put that in the pantheon of the number one game, probably.
Very cool. All right, if you could go back in time and tell your younger self or teach your younger self one lesson that would help you on your entrepreneurial journey, what would that lesson be?
Other than just buy Bitcoin?
Yeah.
I think on the entrepreneurial side, it's probably be a lot more pragmatic. Don't get over your skis. Maybe just a little more of a lot of times when you get venture funding, when there is a bull market, when all the things are going on, you feel like you can kind of do anything, and you'll often tackle projects that you shouldn't. If that you would not tackle in a bear, and so it's a little bit just sort of being. I think I've overgone after projects that I shouldn't have done. That's probably what I would lean on.
Love that. All right, where can people find you and learn more about Photo Finish Live?
Yeah, Twitter's probably the best. I've got a Twitter, third time Ian, and then photofinish.live is where the game lives, and yeah, we're always plugged in. The Twitter for Photo Finish is always hopping. I'm always on Twitter. Always in our Discord is insane. You got to be a different type of a character to enjoy the virtual horse racing battles that have been going on. I mean, these rivalries have been going on for 2+ years, so a lot of these guys know each other. We've gone to the Derby together. It's a very great community that I highly recommend. But you just to know that you're going to kind of come into a very competitive space, I suppose, if you're coming in. So, but yeah, it's a great little, as I said before, the corner of the internet that we found it's really special. Not something you often do, and it's lucky to have it.
Amazing. Ian, thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, Andrew. Thank you, sir.
All right, chat soon.